Oh, I have to click it. Okay. There we go. So more toward the end of the presentation, I'll be talking a little bit more of the technical aspects of it in terms of how we've set up our infrastructure and how we maintain and support it. So there's kind of more the application side, what the end users see our applications and how they use it, and then more from an administrative perspective, which is what I do. So let's dig right into it. Oh, and depending on time, at the end, if there's a little bit of time, I'll do a demo of it, of our instances. So we'll see how it goes. All right. So just very quick, in a nutshell, what are Confluence and JIRA? So they are applications written by a company called Atlassian. It's a growing organization. They used to be pretty small, but now they're much bigger than they used to be. They make a lot of applications now, but the two in this presentation that I'm going to talk about are Confluence and JIRA. Confluence is a wiki tool. You can use it for team collaboration if you're working on similar documentation that a lot of teams need to collaborate on. It's a space for you to access it all at the same time, edit it, make comments on it, and overall just kind of a central repository for any type of documentation that you may be looking to have and maintain. So for team collaboration and a general wiki platform. And then what we use alongside of that is another application called JIRA. And what Atlassian markets this tool as mainly for bug tracking, but a lot of other organizations now, as they've kind of learned what JIRA does and all of the facets of how you can use it, a lot of people also use it for help desk ticketing. And if you're working on a project, you can use it to break down the tasks within a project. Even though kind of these are more general things here, this is really how the library uses these applications. And I'll go into a little bit more detail now about kind of what this really means for the library and some of the use cases. But as these tools have grown and they've released updates and things like that, it's really expanded what you can do with them. And so those are some of the things that we're going to explore here. How does the library use Confluence? So I'm going to start with Confluence and we'll go to JIRA. So how do we use Confluence? I have a couple of slides and some examples of some pages within Confluence. The central thing that we really use Confluence for is giving each of the departments within the library. So I say the library, it's all of the libraries that are on campus. We have a lot of libraries. I just work for the IT organization specifically for the library, but we support every library that's on campus. So the example that I have is the arts library. There's also the biomed library. There's the music library, so on and so forth. So each library has a presence, both physically and within our Confluence space as well. So we've given the opportunity for each library to have a presence. And this is their opportunity to put any documentation that they have that they want to share with amongst themselves within their small little organization or large organization. And they also have the opportunity to share it amongst the entire library organization. If I'm correct, I believe the library has about almost 500 full-time staff. So that's a lot of people. So there are some restrictions that we can put in place to narrow down what people can see and what people can't see. But just the example that I have showing on the slide here, this is specifically for the arts library. And then they've put some documentation up here relating to meetings that they have, any kind of documentation that pertains to things that go on day to day. We've given the opportunity for all of the departments to have a page like this. So just kind of a general departmental knowledge base where if someone has a question about how something works in the arts library or biomed or music or library special collections or something like that, instead of going, well, I don't know how this works, they can go to our Confluence site. There's a search bar, and you can first go there, you can figure out what you're looking for, and then if it's not there, then maybe it's something that we need to put there, and that's one way for us to move forward. Okay, so another way that we use this, more specifically for the library IT organization, it's an opportunity to give students a place to put things that matter to them. So along with the full-time staff, we also have a fair amount of students that work for the library. And their policies, their procedures are fairly different than what normal staff and faculty would do. So this is their space to understand what their policies are, the duties that they have to fulfill during their shifts, things that they're responsible for. So another type of knowledge base, similar to what the library departments would have, but it's more catered toward the student staff that work for the library, and they're called the CLIC staff. I can never ever remember what CLIC stands for. We're in the library, we're just full of acronyms, and so I'll have to try and remember what that one is. But whenever I hear CLIC, I think of students, and this is their space for managing that. And again, we can restrict things for who can do what and who can't do what, and that. So it's a good place to kind of give them their own little world, or anything IT related for the library. It's a place for them to open up, if they have problems, they can submit a help desk ticket through here. If they need an account for something, this is a ticket for a specific type of request, workstation, or if they want to buy something. We've kind of made a centralized portal for them to come like, hey, how do I do something? If they want to know how to get a printer to work, if they want to know, if they want to know how to order something, or if there's a particular topic that has come up in one of their IT meetings and they're not sure how to do something, this is a place for them to go to. And if we have any announcements, like there's one announcement here, we're doing an Office 365 migration. This is a place for us to put up some general announcements for that would pertain to the library community as a whole. So this is something that we just started doing last year, and this is one of the examples that really shows a tie-in between the Confluence application and the JIRA application. I'll get into JIRA shortly, but each of these buttons here represent a tie-in to JIRA. So you can click on this Submit a Help Desk button, you'll see a pop-up window, and you'll fill out all these fields, and it'll send that information over to our JIRA application, which actually handles the creation of the help desk ticket. And so each one of the buttons up here on this page has a tie-in to JIRA. That's how we're using this page now. And so if someone says, well, how do I submit a ticket? We just send them here. For a fairly longer period of time, one of the things that our project managers have found a significant amount of use is using Confluence for planning and managing the different projects that we have going on. So there's a fair amount of website development that we have, both for the main library website, the digital library program, and a lot of side projects that come into the library. And actually last year, Gary Thompson, who was one of our project managers, he did a tech talk specifically on using Confluence for doing project management. And I think this is probably one of the slides that, one of the Confluence pages that he showed. And the way that they've been able to use a lot of the macros that are either plugins to Confluence or things that are already built in on a standard install of Confluence. This is something that we've used to our advantage to organize things, to categorize things, to show priority, where we are in the life cycle of a project, funding requirements, who are the stakeholders, who are the people working on things. And if we were to drill into this further, you would see that in each one of these areas, we can create hooks back to JIRA to say, okay, this task is linked to this issue within JIRA to say, okay, this is what we're working on, this is what we are in the time frame, and then that's linked to this JIRA issue so that we can track it in there as well. So there are tie-ins to both sides. And that's what I think what has made this really powerful for us is that we can plan it and manage it in here, but we can track the tasks in the JIRA interface. And again, we'll see that in the next few slides. Something that people have really enjoyed that I think is very interesting for some people is that within Confluence, you can create your own little world within Confluence. And a lot of people have had fun with this, and it's called a personal space. And that's really the way that Confluence organizes everything. It organizes things into these groups called spaces. And a space is, it can either be owned by one person or it can be owned by many people. In some of the previous slides that I've shown, I've always shown you the front page of a space. So the first slide was the arts library space. So that space is most likely owned by maybe a group of about 3 or 4 people who are in charge of designing that, what it looks like, the content of it, and things like that. And the same thing for the library computing guy. That's owned by some of the management in the IT group. They design and provide the content for that. But a personal space is something that I own. So this is mine up here, and you can see a lot of my face there in the corner. And it's a place where if someone wants to learn about me, who I am, what I do, who my boss is, and various things that I'm working on. This is a place for that to happen. Also, it's a place where if there's some documentation that I'm working on that's not maybe ready for prime time, I'm working on something, maybe just a side project, and I'm developing the documentation for it. But I'm not ready for anyone else to see it. I can do it in here first so that it's restricted to just me. And then when I'm ready for other people to use it, I can move it into a different space that's more publicly available. So the restrictions and the granularity there are pretty good. But, I think these spaces here give this more of a social aspect to it, where, I can give information about me. I mean, there's my picture. These are some things about me. And other people have the same opportunity as well. And people do this in a variety of ways. Some people make personal spaces in the way that I have, where you give information about yourself. Some use it as a way to keep their work logs. So, hey, this is what I've done this week. This is what I've done this month. And it gives other people an opportunity to say, hey, here's what my colleagues are doing. And it's also good, too, at the end of the year when you have to do your review, and you can say, hey, boss, look at what I've done. I did stuff this year. So because, we forget about everything that, we've ever done. Most of the time it's a year ago, unless it's this big, massive thing that we're really proud of. But there are always the small little things that we just are expected to do every day, but maybe we forget about it. So I actually do have a work log in here. It's not visible from this view here, but I maintain that as well. But some people have that front and center. Hey, here's what I've done. That's a neat little thing that we've done with that. And not everyone has a personal space, but a fair amount do. So I'm now going to transition to JIRA to talk about how to use that. The primary thing that at least I use it for every day and most people use it for every day is just a general task dashboard. It's one of the first things that I do when I come in the morning. I open my JIRA dashboard and I see, okay, what do I have on my board for today? And what we try to have everyone do as much as possible is keep their tasks inside of an issue. So JIRA, the terminology that they use is everything is called an issue, even though in our minds it may not be an issue. But that's just the terminology that JIRA uses. Everything is an issue. But I will use the term issue and ticket interchangeably, or the word task, things like that. But I've organized it, and this is my dashboard, but people have created some fairly sophisticated dashboards that are much more sophisticated than mine. Mine's relatively simple. But the way I have it organized is I have one panel here that just says things that I'm responsible for. These are issues, these are tickets, these are tasks that are assigned to me. So what am I responsible for? Things that I need to be working on. JIRA also has a concept of I may not be the owner of an issue, a task, or a ticket, but it may be something that I'm interested in knowing what's going on with. Maybe I'm helping someone out with a project or an issue that they're having. So there's this concept of a watched issue. So if there's something that's going on where, hey, I care about what's going on, but I'm not the one primarily doing the work. But I want to stay up to date with anything that is going on with that. Because maybe down the line it'll involve me, or I'm helping them out with something. So I kind of keep these front and center. What am I working on? So I can easily click on each one of these. It'll take me to a different view, and I can comment on an issue. I can update it. I can close it, resolve it, and things like that. So mainly this is what most of us within the library use it for. We make a dashboard however we want, and you can get really sophisticated with it. And then, as I had previously mentioned, we use it for our help desk system. So again, the library has a lot of full-time faculty and staff, and there's always a problem. There's always something going wrong. So we have to have a way for them to tell us about it. So they have a few different ways that they can do that, but the endpoint is always JIRA. That's where they're going to end up. That's where we want them to end up. And they have a couple ways of opening up a help desk issue with the library IT organization. So the first thing that they can do is they can email us. So we have an email address that they all know about, and they send us an email and saying, hey, my printer doesn't work, or hey, my mouse isn't working, or I can't receive email for some reason, or whatever IT issue it might be. And JIRA will receive that email and create a ticket for it. So that's one way. That's what I would say, 80 to 90% of the tickets that we get, they will come in through email. We have some other users who are, they like the interface in JIRA, so what they'll do is they'll go in here and create the ticket themselves. So the slide that I have up on the screen here is if they just want to create a general ticket themselves. And these ticket creation screens are fully customizable. You can make them look and feel any way you want. If there are certain things that are important to you for creating a particular type of issue, you can have fields for that. This is just kind of more of a general thing. Hey, something's wrong. I don't quite know what it is, but something's wrong, and I need help with it. And they can fill out all of these details here. Something that we're going to be moving to, hopefully, within the next maybe next year is Atlassian has a product called JIRA Service Desk, which creates a front portal to JIRA that people can go to try to solve their own problem before opening up a ticket. So we're exploring using it just because our ticket load is quite high. So we're trying to figure out ways to mitigate that a little bit. Not ready yet. We're still working on it, but something that we're all going to look forward to. This goes more in hand with what we were doing in Confluence with respect to project management. So this is the task tracking aspect of it. So what's nice about JIRA is we can create one master ticket, one master task, and then underneath that create subtasks. So just for example, this master ticket was, we're building a new stage environment for one of our websites. So instead of having to create multiple issues that we have to relate them somehow later on, we create one master task here. And the master task is build a new website. Okay. Well, okay, that involves a lot of different things. And so we make different subtasks underneath that, and we can track the progress of that. So these are all done because you see the little green check mark next to them, and they all say closed. But this kind of gives you the view of, okay, where are we in this overall task? How are we doing with it? Who is responsible for completing these tasks? And again, this view is customizable. You can change it if you want to see more or less detail. And so the other thing that we use it for is reporting. And so I had mentioned that the dashboards are very customizable, and you can make them look almost any way you want. So this is one that a dashboard that our management uses to see, well, how are we doing with our help desk tickets? How many tickets are we closing? Who owns the most number of tickets? And you can also make, some pie charts and graphs, and you can see kind of where we are. Okay, this month we opened up this many tickets and we closed this many tickets and we got this far, and so there's a lot of reporting functionality in here. And this is just one example. There's so many more things that you can do with it. And if I were to scroll down, I can't scroll down here, but if I were, there'd be a whole slew of more things that you could see and how we're reporting on. Maybe we need more staff. Maybe we're getting bored because we have too much staff. Or maybe there's a problem somewhere. Maybe there's a procedure that we're following that isn't really working for us. Okay. So that's kind of the usage part of it there. Now this was a choice that we made. Should we go with a paid product? So this is something that we paid for. This is not free. Or should we go with an open source product? So the two things that we were jumping back and forth was, these Atlassian products versus MediaWiki, which we all know from Wikipedia. So MediaWiki is a free thing. Yay, we can do whatever we want with it. It's free, open source, and all that. And Atlassian is a paid product. So what do? Well, obviously, we ended up with Atlassian because I'm doing this presentation. But we decided on them mainly just because, they were a growing, established company with a fairly significant user base. It's very actively maintained. Their response times are nearly immediate, when something isn't working. And something that we were really looking for was integration between the different products. So integrations between our documentation software and our ticket software. MediaWiki, there really isn't any way to do that. So this was something that we really were looking for, and it worked out really well for us. And then if there was something that we're looking to do and we just didn't know how to do it ourselves, there was a very large community of these people called Atlassian experts, who they are basically consultants who you can work with. We actually have been working with at least one company where they can look at what you're doing and say, hey, do it this way, or we can help you make this. So that was really good for us. But most importantly for us is the end user experience. We did a little bit of work looking at, well, who liked which better, and in the end, people liked Confluence better. It was much easier to use just from someone who, maybe they could spell Atlassian or they could spell MediaWiki, but that was about it. Okay, use them. And overall, the experience with Confluence was much better. They could, yeah, there's still a little bit of a learning curve. You have to learn how to do a few things on your own. But for the most part, people were more productive at a much faster rate using Confluence and JIRA. So that was the biggest thing for us. Like, yeah, all those other things are great, but in the end, how do people use it? So you have the option of having Atlassian host this for you. They call it their on-demand / cloud product, or you can host it on-premise yourself, which is what we do. So we host it ourselves. The great thing about them hosting it for you is you don't have to worry about any of the infrastructure. It just kind of works. They handle all the upgrades, patching, and everything for you, and maintenance, so on and so forth. Whereas on-premise, you have to have staff to do that stuff. But again, the upside to hosting it yourself is you have the flexibility for it, the customization, and what was really important for us was information privacy. Because when you put stuff up in the cloud, yes, theoretically it's all safe and where they are, but in the end, you never know. So, we're able to stick it in our infrastructure, and it's on us to make sure that it's safe. So what's required for it if you do want to host it yourself? So one, you have to have the staffing for it because it does require someone who is familiar with the technologies that I have up on the slide here. So both Confluence and JIRA are Java applications. They run inside of Tomcat. They do use an external database system, so you can use MySQL, Postgres, MSSQL, and there's a little bit of others too, but those are the big ones that they use. And then bundled with it, so you don't have to install this yourself, bundled with it is Lucene, which they use for indexing and searching and things like that. And then our infrastructure, so this is how I have it set up. There's a variety of different ways that you can do it. So I have Confluence and JIRA running on separate hosts. They are virtual machines using Red Hat Linux. And so I've installed Apache and Tomcat. So if you use the on-premise, they give you everything you need except for Apache. So if you want to put it Apache in front of it, which I recommend you do because they don't set up SSL for you, so you have to do that yourself. So I just use Apache as an SSL endpoint, and then you install that there. And then Tomcat, it's bundled with everything, and it looks exactly the same for the JIRA server as well. So they're almost identical, just one's Confluence, one's JIRA. It uses a MySQL for the database, and then for user authentication, we have it linked with Microsoft Active Directory. You don't have to use Microsoft Active Directory. You can use local login as well, so you can just have Confluence and JIRA manage it itself. That's fine. But because we already have an Active Directory structure set up, it works, and it'll sync with that. And then what is required to maintain it? Well, again, you have to have some staff there, someone to maintain the database, do backups, do some virtual machine tuning, because for anyone that knows about how the JVM works, it can be a little bit of a pain sometimes. So you have to have someone who can spend some time with that. If you use Active Directory for the account, you have to have a little bit of knowledge of how Active Directory works, or whatever directory that you're using. They do release updates and bug fixes fairly frequently, so just understanding what's involved in that process. And then having an ability to test these changes in a stage environment or something like that, just because 9 times out of 10 you do an upgrade, everything's fine, but there's always that one time that something blows up and it's not going to work anymore. So I do maintain a production environment and a stage environment just to allow people the opportunity to try things. And so here are some useful links if you want to learn more about how these things work. So Atlassian's Confluence page, it's called confluence.atlassian.com. So you can go there. They have all of their documentation there, both for Confluence, for JIRA, and for any of their other applications and they have a lot of other applications. And then if you want to get some tutorials about how to do certain things in Confluence, they have a free website that you can go to. It's called university.atlassian.com, and they have videos and you can watch how to do things. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm fgurnick@library.ucla.edu. Feel free to contact me, and I can give you more information about how we do things.